Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Public Works Committee meeting this Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. We're going to wait a while to see that we have a quorum. We're going to respect everyone's time. If we don't get a quorum, we'll start the meeting as an informational meeting. But thank you guys for being here. Hey, what you say, Paul? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we shouldn't be up. Roll call, Ms. Curran.
Councilmember Thomas,
Present.
Councilmember Chiuso, Councilmember Harris,
Here.
Councilmember King, Councilmember Green.
Here.
We have 3 members. We have a quorum.
Approval of the minutes from the May 28th meeting, moved by the chair.
Second, Green.
Second by Councilmember Green. All in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Next item on the agenda, Ms. Curran.
We have the discussion of Lakefront Management Authority and Lakefront Airport and its importance to the city and its residents.
Guys, if you guys could come up. First of all, I want to thank the Lakefront Airport, Mr. Capo, and their team. I think too often, Councilmember Green, I know you and I know because we share that district, they play an integral and important part of this community, from special events to what they do in terms of emergencies and the role that the LMA and Mr. Capo and his team play. So, guys, if you could come and start with your presentation. And this is the Lakefront Management Authority. Introduce yourself.
Thank you, Commissioner, Councilman Thomas. Louis Capo, the Executive Director for the Lakefront Management Authority. I want to thank you and the other council members for inviting us here today to explain who the LMA is. A lot of people you hear on the Lakefront Management Authority, they have no idea who we are. And I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to present to you all what the LMA is about. Here with me today, I have some key members of the LMA staff. I'd like to introduce behind me, sitting back here, we have Ms. Vanessa McKee. She is the Executive Assistant and Board Secretary. We have Kel Brownfield. He is the HR Director. We have Ms. LaToya Black. She's a new grants manager. She just came on board about 3 weeks ago, and she's going to help us find some money for some infrastructure that's so badly needed.
Awesome.
Also, we have Laith Al-Shalami is our Chief Engineer. We have Kristen Clanaud, who is the Accounting Manager. We have Elena King is the Accountant, and Brielle Hillary is another one of our accountants. So I brought some of our key staff, and to my left is Bruce Martin, the Airport Director.
Thank you.
I want to begin by, who is the Lakefront Management Authority? How do we even come into creation? Shortly after Katrina, a lot of people were very upset with the Orleans Levee District. And Orleans Levee District not only had assets that were flood-related, but also had non-flood assets. They had 2 marinas, they had an airport, they had an office building, they had Lakeshore Drive, and they maintained the interior parks in the 4 lakefront subdivisions. In 2007, January, the assets were stripped from the Orleans Levee District and parked at the State Division of Administration. We stayed there, parked with them until the regular session, legislative session of 2010. Then Senator Morell put forth a bill to bring those assets back to local jurisdiction and control. And that was the board that was created then was the Non-Flood Protection Asset Management Authority. So we were created in August of 2010. We've been operating since that time. In 2019, we changed our name from the Non-Flood Asset Management Authority to the Lakefront Management Authority. I'm not sure if that has cleared up who we are and what we do, but it's a shortened name. Our board is comprised of 17 board members. 2 members are appointed by the 1st Congressional District. Several state legislators have appointments to our board. We have council members that have appointments to our board. We have the Lakefront Property Owners Association. Those 4 presidents have two appointments to our board. City Park has an appointment. The mayor has an appointment. Pontchartrain Conservancy has an appointment, and the LADOTD. So that's what makes up our board, 17 members comprised of local management here. We also have 46 employees. When we started out in 2010, it was myself and 2 accountants and a few maintenance people and some stragglers left over from the old levee board. And we developed and built and restored all our properties back, put them in commerce, and now we have approximately 46 employees. What do we do? The Lakefront Management Authority controls and manages the non-flood assets of the Orleans Levee District. The Orleans Levee District is still the owner that retained title to these properties. The properties never changed hands, or the title never switched to another entity. The flip side of that is the Southeast Louisiana Flood Protection Authority. They manage the flood assets of the Orleans Levee District. So essentially you have 2 boards that are managing different functions of the Orleans Levee District's assets. And I'll go through some of my slides now.
And let the record reflect, Councilmember Giarrusso is also present at the meeting.
The boundaries that comprise the non-flood assets on the north is Lake Pontchartrain, to the south is Allen Toussaint and Leon C. Simon. On the west side is the New Basin Canal, and on the east side is South Shore Harbor. All of those properties that are owned by the Orleans Levee District that are non-flood related are managed and controlled by the Lakefront Management Authority. Some of those properties are the the Orleans Marina, which is the inner harbor. We have the New Basin Canal properties. That's where all the restaurants and the condos are located on Lakeshore Drive. We have the Lake Vista Community Center, which is a 16-unit office building in the interior portion of Lake Vista. We have the New Orleans Lakefront Airport. We have South Shore Harbor. Everyone knows the Mardi Gras Fountain. We have that. We have the Seabrook Boat Launch and the Frank Davis Fishing Pier. We maintain all of the building restrictions and parks in the 4 lakefront subdivisions, and the former Naval Reserve facility and all of Lakeshore Drive. So we, under the LMA, we have a lot of diverse properties that we manage, and we have to keep in the commerce and make sure that these properties are all public owned, and that we put these properties back into commerce. We can go through these slides right quick. The picture on the bottom is the Orleans Marina that rings with the boathouses and the New Basin Canal properties. Go ahead. That was, in fact, the Orleans Levee District was built by the City of New Orleans, and the ownership was transferred, the administrative rights were transferred to the Orleans Levee District in the late 1950s, early 1960s. The New Basin Canal properties, those are mainly land leases. We have all of the ground and water bottoms under Landry's, Blue Crab, Lake House. All those properties are leased through the LMA, the Lakefront Management Authority, under long-term leases. The New Basin Canal Green Space. This is from basically the fallout shelter on the New Basin Canal, which is bound by veterans, the fallout shelter, Pontchartrain Boulevard, and West End Boulevard. That property is about 46 acres. And that was transferred to the Orleans Levee District through various land swaps over the years. Here's a picture of the Lake Vista Community Center. This was built in the 1940s, and it's an office building inside the subdivision of Lake Vista. If you look at an overshot of Lake Vista, you'll see the way it was designed and laid out, that everything goes back to the this hub in the center. Then we have the Lakefront Airport, which is really everyone knows of the Lakefront Airport. It's a very, very popular place. Lakefront was built in the 1930s. There's a nighttime shot of the lights. It looks pretty. There's a daytime shot. That's some of the interior. It's an old picture of the interior. Another dated old picture of the interior. And South Shore Harbor. South Shore Harbor was the location of the first casino boat in the state of Louisiana in 1993. It was the Star Casino back then. Anybody that knows anything about, knows casinos, they want no other competition. And when South Shore came online in 1986, 7 years later, the casino came in, and they wanted every available piece of land that was out there. They leased that from the Orleans Levee District. And they were tune of $4.5 million a year to the coffers of the Orleans Levee District, and no other development took place out there. When Bally's left in December of 2005, they left us in ruins. The marina was in ruins, and the old site, the Bally's site, was in ruins. We have since built back the marina. The marina's probably in a neighborhood about 40% occupied. It's always been a challenge to fill this marina, but we're working hard to do that. We've had a consultant come in and give us some ideas on how we can get this marina back fully operational. Also, that blue building was the old restaurant, food court for the casino. That right now is under lease to Mr. Coxum, Henry Coxum. He is in the process of developing that area. We met with him again this week, and he attended one of our committee meetings last week, the commercial real estate, to give an update. And he is moving forward. He's close on finding an operator to open and run the bar and grill on the outside. And he's very, very optimistic about getting this property up and running soon. He came across a setback when his key staff member, Stephen Favrot, passed away, and that kind of set him back a little bit, because I know Stephen was his right-hand man, and he kept this project going. Then we have the 4 lakefront subdivisions. One of the things that when the levee district, in the 30s, Lake Pontchartrain stopped on the north side of Allen Toussaint. The levee board built the seawall and then backfilled and created approximately 2,000 acres and created subdivisions. One thing that the levee district did in their creation of these subdivisions, they maintained the rights to review building restrictions. If you're going to do anything in your home, outside any type of renovations, they need to come to the LMA to get a letter of no objection. And we work very closely with the Department of Safety and Permits. But we also have to maintain the parks inside of those subdivisions. And these are basically our non-revenue producing assets. And as you all know, that you'll have a lot of grass yourself, and that's a very, very expensive expense to maintain the green space. Okay. That's Lake Vista there. You can see how the parks, everything is the hub right back to the main building. That's it. You can go right through them. This is the old Naval Reserve site. It's a 12-acre site. We've put it out for RFQ for development a few times, and we've had no takers on it. Mardi Gras Fountain is a very, very well-known project of, you can go all the way through. With that, how are we funded? We receive approximately this coming July, our budget is $9.3 million for the year. And approximately $6.9 million of that comes from self-revenue generating properties. And the remainder, 2.4, comes from ad valorem tax. We get a small portion of the SLIP fund, the Special Levy Improvement Fund, that the voters in Orleans Parish passed in 2012. One of the major hurdles that we have with our funding is capital projects and major infrastructure. In summary, the main thing is that we're a political subdivision of the state, but the citizens of Orleans Parish through the years have built and paid for these assets. These are rightly Orleans assets, the public's assets. And we try to maintain that. We try to make sure, one of our well-known assets is Lakeshore Drive. We try to promote Lakeshore Drive. We try to make it as presentable as possible. We have our grass teams out there. It's a contract that we cut. We work with the Arc of New Orleans. They do our trash pickup, which I think they do an excellent job. So we keep the lakefront clean, and we do our best. We replace the picnic tables to make it presentable for the citizens and whoever else wants to come out to the lakefront and enjoy the lakefront. I mean, there is no other place in the city of New Orleans, 5.2 miles, that you can go get you some food, sit out there and have a picnic with your family and friends. It's a very enjoyable place. One of the main things that we do have on Lakeshore Drive every year, it's been the last 3 years, is the National Fried Chicken Festival. That is really starting to take off. And I know last year they had close to 100,000 people. It was well attended, and we look forward to that again in the fall. We would like to see more events like that out there. I think we have an ideal spot between Franklin and Shelter 4. We have the parking. If they need additional parking, they can contract with the University of New Orleans. And I think we have an ideal location to attract, and we are trying to attract more functions and get more people out to the lakefront. Because I do think these assets are very valuable to the citizens of New Orleans.
Councilmember Green.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today and for everyone with the Lakefront Management Authority. When you see me leave in a couple of minutes, it's only because I have a hard stop phone call that I have to make in the back at 10:30. But thank you, Councilman Thomas, for bringing before your committee the very, very important Lakefront Management Authority. And I was glad to hear about the developments that are going on. So I do want to emphasize a couple of things before I leave, and I'm going to still come back and you may be still here. The grass is cut by the ARC. And
No, sir, the trash is picked up by the
trash is
ARC.
picked up by the ARC, that's right.
The grass is cut by another contractor.
Right,
Yes.
okay. Who's the contractor?
H&O.
H&O. And look, everybody, I was wrong, that's right. I know that's just the trash that's picked up. So I want to emphasize that that's a DBE firm, right?
It's a state work plan
Right.
through EDS.
Can you tell us a little bit about them? Because I think the public would want to know a little
ARC?
bit about what they do.
The ARC are employees that, in a non-traditional sense, that would not be employed by, in a traditional sense of the job. These are, some are, have some challenges. They do a very good job. In fact, at tomorrow night's meeting, every year, we give and recognize the workers of the ARC. We will present them with certificates every year. These guys do the work that really no one, people, you see what happens on the lakefront. People come out there, especially during crawfish season, eat their crawfish, get up and leave. These are the guys that go out there and do that. These are the guys that are emptying those trash cans with crawfish and trash. So yes, they are very valuable to us. They've been with us since the beginning, since 2007, when we contracted with the ARC. These guys do a great job, and we always like to commend them and recognize them in our meetings.
Thank you. I wanted that to come out. What
Yes,
you
sir.
said, that basically the ARC employs
Yes,
people
these
who
are ARC employees.
and they're disabled sometimes and disadvantaged, but
Yes.
they do a fine job because, yes, unfortunately in our city sometimes we see trash next to trash cans. I don't know why that is, but the bottom line is that on Mondays and Tuesdays, the ARC comes out every week and cleans the lakefront 5.2 miles.
Every
As
week.
far as I can see. They
They're
do a
out there
fine job.
6 days a week, with the
6 days.
exception of Wednesday. They're not out there on Wednesdays.
Right, but on that Monday and Tuesday, when people complain
Oh.
about, oh, Sunday's a mess. Yeah, but by Monday and Tuesday, it's cleaned up, but they're there every day. And I just wanted to emphasize the fact that it's disabled and disadvantaged individuals involved with that firm. And I want to give them a bit of a shout out because I have an opportunity to go out there and I see them working. I have a chance to talk to a couple of people. They're just pleased to be able to work. They don't express disgust relative to those who are unfortunately leaving trash where it doesn't have to be left. They have a mission to do, and I appreciate that.
Yes, sir, thank you. Yes, and those, the men and women that do that trash pickup, I don't care what time when you go see them out there, they always have a smile on their face and they're always glad to see you.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Thomas, this is your district, but it borders right on mine, but I want to ask a couple of things of the Lakefront Management Authority. Lou, one day I want to come out to the peninsula and just walk on that beautiful stretch of land, even if there's nothing to do other than to just walk on it. Eat it off, find money from the state. They have a $51 billion budget. They spend $27 billion on a 3-month homeless encampment. At the end of the day, they have the money to develop the peninsula. And also, I'd like you to look at Pontchartrain Beach. Now, that is my district. I know that
Yes.
we've looked at it. Maybe it doesn't have to be as complex. Maybe it can be a passive park where people can just walk, put their feet in sand, enjoy themselves with chairs and the like. I think that you got a bit of a pushback from the community because maybe there was a little bit more that was unseen and unexpected. But passive parks work well, and maybe that's the beginning of doing the development of Pontchartrain Beach. The state has the money for it. I also look forward to, and I know that there are plans for the, is it the Frank Davis boat launch?
Seabrook Boat Launch, Frank Davis Pier, yes.
Frank Davis Pier. looking forward to that development. Just
We
wanted
do
to
have-
mention
yes.
that, you know, and whatever way that I can help, that's technically in the district. I'm going to ask you, because this is technically in my district, but it's Councilman Thomas and it's our city. Be careful and let's do everything that we can to shore up that swimming area where people show up on Sundays. I
Yes.
know that unfortunately, because of its proximity to the currents of the industrial canal, that we could potentially have a problem. If it's going to be allowed, I wish there would be something that was so permanent in place that they can't go beyond that.
We may need to revisit and see if we need more signage out there too, put it in not only in English, but in Spanish as well.
Yes.
We do have some other signs out there, English and Spanish. To mention about what's going on with Seabrook Boat Launch, we do have some money in capital outlay. We have applied for that. We have money in, called Priority 2 for the design of the Seabrook Boat Launch. And that's where we are right now. We're working with the company, engineering firm DEI, to finalize the plans. They're about 95% on the plans. And hopefully the construction costs will be in House Bill 1 next year for the capital outlay funding for the construction of that. But we are pursuing that as well.
I'd like to see a wall or some more
Some
signage
barrier.
that they can't go past.
Okay.
I mean, you know, you kind of know where I'm going.
Yes,
Because
yes.
the current is too much. And I just know one day we're going to have a problem with so many children. And it should be an area that people come and enjoy, but maybe there can be some barricade put in place to stop them from moving forward. I also want to applaud and highlight the fact that the Lakefront Management Authority and the airport is the home for the Enrique Alvarez sculptures and also the Art Deco. I just happened to be there on Saturday, and there were some visitors that were there to see the Art Deco, see the terminal. Just want to encourage you to, as part of the advertising, even enhance the advertising of those two great artistic assets that are at the airport and encourage people to visit. It will certainly help the restaurant, but maybe even one Saturday or something like that a year, it'd be a feature of the Art Deco and also of the statues to give the public an idea that that great public asset is there.
Yeah, I agree with you, sir. Bring people out to this area.
Okay. And I appreciate the work that you did to make sure that the process was very fair relative to the development of the former Valley site. You mentioned Henry Coaxum. It also
Yes.
involves Jimmy Woods and Vincent Sylvain.
Vincent Sylvain, yes, sir.
And I'm looking forward to something should be happening in the fall where the public is invited to come out because there's something will be finished, right?
Yes, sir.
Maybe you can talk about that in advance.
He did have, he was able to host a Super Bowl party there. He invited people out. I think the food was free.
Oh, no, you should not have told me and Councilman Thomas that. Were you there? Were you there? I don't remember getting an invitation to the Super Bowl party at Henry Coaxum's. Mr. Coaxum, you're watching. I don't know. I think my email address is pretty simple.
So I guess my phone will ring when I leave here today. But we're excited about his development out there. As you mentioned about getting things done like that, that's one reason why we brought on Ms. LaToya Black. She has a lot of experience with grants, and she's already hit the ground running looking for some grants for us. And hopefully she's going to be able to find some money to do some of these things, like at Pontchartrain Beach, get some of those things back up and running.
I have two members of my security department behind me telling me I have to get on that phone at
I know one.
10:30. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Councilman Thomas. Once again, I can't emphasize it enough that the LMA is a very important asset in our city. Though it has a lot of responsibilities that are defined by the state, there's a lot of employment of local persons and a generation of economic development. And I may be able to come back before you leave, but if not, I appreciate the fact that you were here and brought staff with you and let me know how I can help to do whatever we can to continue those major investments.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other council members? Councilmember Harris.
No, I just want to say I got married at the Lakefront Airport. It's a beautiful venue. I would encourage anybody who is looking at venues in New Orleans to take a look at the airport. We had a fantastic time, and you can even take helicopter rides, I would not, or airplane rides from the airport after you get married, right? So it's just an amazing venue. The staff was fantastic, and we really had a great time.
Any council member would like to have a tour of the airport or any of one of our properties, please reach out to me and we'll make it happen.
And Messina's catering is amazing.
Yes, they do a very good job there.
I just, want to say thank you because in particular, the kind of the track that you described between Pontchartrain and the fallout shelter and veterans is always something that needs some care and management. And I think people don't realize it's an LMA asset. So a lot of times we'll get questions about that. And anytime anything comes up, you and your team have been very quick to respond to it. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Capo, thank you for your presentation, and for the team who's here. Thank you, guys.
I'm going to let Bruce has his
Okay,
presentation.
go ahead, Bruce.
Good morning. My name is Bruce Martin. I'm the Director of Aviation for the Lakefront Airport. Prior to having the privilege of getting this job, I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps doing airports around the world, and I can hands down say this is my favorite airport I've ever been at, and not just because it employs me now. I hope to finish out my career here working at this airport, and I just want to touch on some of the points of what this airport does and can mean for the city. The photo that you see right there is from the Super Bowl. It's Saturday before the Super Bowl happened. At kickoff time, we ended up with 178 planes on the ground in support. That's a runway that you see planes on. They're not lined up to leave, but we use every available piece of asphalt that we have at the airport to make sure we're getting in what we can get in. So we park those planes there on taxiways, runways, and get them in how we can fit them in. Quick photo of it back in 1934 at its opening. Looks very much the same today. The airport's a general aviation airport. We act as a reliever for MSY, just so that MSY doesn't have to deal with the private traffic, maybe the planes that are coming in that are general aviation that aren't scheduled. They have enough to deal with over there, so we act as a reliever to give those controllers some relief. We have 146 planes that are based at Lakefront Airport and call it home, and we have a fully functioning FAA tower from 07 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, and it's 365 days a year we've got that tower manned. We also have a fire department that's there for aircraft rescue and firefighting. That's 24/7, 365. They're always there around the clock and ready to respond. That's a picture of our truck. If you haven't seen, an aircraft rescue firefighting truck is different than a normal fire truck that you may see out on the streets, and that's because you're fighting the fire from within with foam and chemicals because it burns so hot if something were to happen with the plane. So they pull up in the truck itself, and they will fight fires from the truck itself. We have 2 flight schools located on the airport. We've got 2 helicopter tour companies, one of which works very close hand in hand with Messina's and offers that ability. They're very busy, and we're happy to have them on the airport. We've got several aircraft mechanics. The Big Easy Wing, which is a faction of the Commemorative Air Force, also has a hangar on the airport, and they've got an aircraft, and they bring out a lot of students and schools to learn about the older aircraft that they do have housed at the airport. We also operate 24 hours because we do have Ochsner set up on the airport. They do flight care. They're flying in and out throughout the day. We also have Lifeline flights that happen, and that's basically organ transplants. If organs need to move, we've got it set up there on Lakefront Airport, and they get out around the clock, 24 hours there as well. One other thing that we have there is if a hurricane were to come to New Orleans, if you weren't aware, and the hospitals were to evacuate, Lakefront Airport is where they would set up to do that. We meet every year with GOSEP and the federal partners with the Air Force, and we talk about our plan each and every year just in case it were to have to happen. They would come in on C-17 aircraft. They would set up shop at the airport with one of our FBOs, which handle the planes, and they would start the evacuation process, while GOSEP would be on the east side of the airport, working the more critical patients in smaller jets to get them out and get them the care they need. But we're there, we're ready, and always available for that. And like I said, we meet every year to go over those plans. As I talked about, the fixed-base operators, think of them as kind of like your Delta or American. They handle everything when a plane comes into the airport. Fueling, baggage, transportation, everything. They're there to give them the top-notch service that we want to give at Lakefront Airport. We've got a third one that's just come online. It's just starting up and should be hopefully breaking ground soon on a new hangar at the airport, so we're excited to see some development happening there. Community engagement is also something that we're really trying to push while we're out there. We're trying to reach out to schools. We've talked with some from the New Orleans School Board. to see if we can get schools out to the Lakefront Airport and other groups. Recently, we've had Jack and Jill of America come out, Jace's Boys and Girls Club, and a few other schools that have come. And we'll spend several hours those days and show them everything that can be done at an airport, just so they understand it's not just pilots that can get a job at an airport. We've got a wide array of jobs that can be done there. And we take them around to the whole airport. We let them spray the hoses with the fire trucks. We let them see a demonstration of what the fire trucks do. We take them over to the FBOs. The FBOs have been kind enough that they'll even treat them as if they're pilots when they're coming in, give them free cookies, drinks, things like that, and then we take them to the planes so they can get tours of these smaller private jets that are out there. When available, we'll even get them onto a plane to view it from the inside. That's the St. Michael Special School. They come yearly for us, but we're trying to get that word out. So if you have schools in your district, please, it's no cost whatsoever to them. And we try to put on a first class show every time we do it. We even take them up to the tower to see everything that they have the ability of doing on an airport and ignite that spark in aviation, because it is important to all of myself and the employees that work there. We badge them. As you can see, they've got lanyards on. We give every single one of them a badge with their pictures. We give them patches, stickers, magnets, anything we can do just, again, to excite them. The future of the airport, this is from our master plan. That northeast corner that you see there that the water is kind of creeping in on, that's an area of land we'd like to get back. Right now, flooding is the biggest problem at Lakefront Airport. We're outside of flood protection. When storms come, that valve gets turned off. The south side of my airport can no longer drain. The south side of the airport drains to the city. The north side of the airport drains to, is gravity fed. So lake level gets to a certain point, the city valve gets turned off, the airport turns into a swimming pool, and I'll show you what I mean by that when a big storm comes in, a named storm. The way that we're funded at the airport is through federal and state grants, and those are mainly for our runways, taxiways. That's what's going to get the funding. We're not going to get federal and state grants for development of hangars, typically. Sometimes they'll open that window up, but you end up with so much pavement that those are the things you want to have done. Nobody wants to think about a pothole on a runway when you're on an airplane taking off. So everything we do is to make sure that we have no potholes on the runway when we're taking off. Fuel flowage, hangar leases, parking fees, rental commissions of the hangar when those weddings and things are happening, and then filming agreements. Once upon a time was pretty lucrative for us, but the filming industry with recent things that have happened and not filming here is we've taken a step back on that, but it used to be very beneficial for us, the filming companies. Just to speak on how busy we are as an airport, and it may be hard for you all to see, we are the second busiest operated airport in the state of Louisiana. We're busier than Baton Rouge, we're busier than Houma, we're busier than Shreveport. 84,518 operations happened in 2024. The next closest to us was 73,000, and that was Baton Rouge, who has scheduled aircraft that are coming in there. We don't have scheduled aircraft that are coming to our airport, but MSY is the only one that has more operations. It's controlled by a tower within the state of Louisiana. This is a photo from the Final Four. Again, you can see where we put aircraft down on the taxiways. If we've got a big event coming, we make sure we've got room for these planes, and we shut down what needs to be shut down to get them in and still safely operate. That's another overhead from the Saturday before the Super Bowl this year. The obstacles, like I talked about, we're outside of flood protection. The airport drainage, we've got some aging infrastructure that's there, and limited real estate to develop. We're surrounded by water, so it's not as though we can just buy any kind of land that's near us or build lake bottom up again. It's just not a real possibility. This is a picture from Hurricane Zeta, the runway. This is our main runway. The lake came over the wall, and then when it left a lot of debris behind that we had to clean up. This is also from Zeta. The winds damaged some of our hangars that were over there. And again, these are things that we've got to get repaired and pay our deductibles for. This is what I mean with the swimming pool. This is Hurricane Ida when it came in. This was the front of the terminal. As you can see, not much land is there. And in the back side of the terminal, and you can see I've got a chair there on the outlook. I was at the at the airport during this so we can make sure we're getting in any aircraft we can, because even though, a lot of our taxiways were flooded out, we still had helicopters coming in right after Ida, and we were there to make sure they could land and let them know where they could land, and then get vehicles in as well to get any supplies out that were needed during Ida. So we take our role during these storms very seriously. The fire department stays there. I stay there throughout it, and that's just so we can update the flying community on what we have available and what we have open. We have a pump station that's being built right now at Lakefront Airport. We're about $24 million into the development of the pump station. That's with design and construction that we've started, with the hopes that when it's all done, we will no longer solely rely on the south side of the airport on draining out to the city. The only thing that would drain to the city will be on the other side of the terminal building. So hopefully we won't have to shut that valve off because it won't overwhelm the system that you all have in place here. Everything will go up towards the pump station and then the reservoir that's being built to hold the water over there. So we're excited about that. The FAA is funding 90% of it, DOTD is funding 10% of it, and we're currently on phase 3 of that project. Just a visual, if the lake level's at 3 feet and we get a heavy rain, this is not hurricanes, heavy rain, you can see where the water starts encroaching upon us, 4 feet. And then when the lake level's at 5 feet, this is kind of what happens. And this is from June 2022. This isn't a hurricane, this is just a heavy storm that came through, just to show you the problems we have. When you've got an airport that's flooding like this and it doesn't even take a hurricane, it's hard for me to get businesses to come in and want to establish a business on the airport. You're asking them to do this knowing they're gonna have to do insurance claims. So the first step for me with the pump station is it's critical for our success in the future. And that's the proposed system that we'll have, the pump station there. We'll tie into the old system and then reroute everything with new pipes to the pump station. And one final picture from the Super Bowl. I truly appreciate y'all's, you giving us this opportunity to present.
Now, Mr. Martin, thank you. Any comments or questions from council members? Okay. Thank you. I know Councilmember Green is on a call. As someone who was the former chairman of the Research and Development Committee years ago, when Buddy Roemer was governor, I understand the importance of the LMA and what you guys do. And Ms. Martin, what you've done with the airport, especially given the challenges, has been tremendous. And Mr. Capo, you and your team, I thought this was important because too often the people who work there have been treated like an afterthought. But in many cases, in our most extreme cases, when there's this emergency, you guys are the only outlet. When there's something really good that happens in the city, you guys are not only the outlet, you're part of the reason why that something good happens. So some of the questions I have, I share that area with Councilmember Green. We know the airport itself is within my district. Many of the other assets are in District D and District A. The Coaxum project, it's been several years now, and what do we do to get that underway? Because even given, Mr. Martin, the challenges with flooding, when people come to take a look at the city and they look at our landscape or the view of our city, they view that area as one of the most prominent assets in the region, even given some of the challenges. So why has it been so hard to get this Coaxum project off the ground, especially given the fact that most developers, if they could pick a project not knowing what the, or a location, not knowing what the challenges are, they would pick, that would be one of the top 3 or 5 locations picked. What do we do to get this thing going?
One of the challenges that Mr. Coaxum had is really two.
And I understand that Stephen was one of my favorite architects, but
when Bally's pulled out, the property stayed pretty much in ruins, in bad shape until Roland von Kernikowski came forth, and we put on RFQ, and he was the only one that responded to develop that area. At that time, Roland wanted the same amount of land that Bally's had. He took that project on, and I think he passed away in 2019.
Yeah, it was a few years.
2020, something like that. Anyway, what he left there was not good. He left the place, the blue building. They had all kind of hazardous materials in there, paint, solvents. We had to get all that cleaned up. And so, yeah, it's been a very real challenge, not only for Mr. Coxum, but for us to clean up that site. And part of the problem with South Shore is that there is no life there. Mr. Coxum has on his lease, 7 years to build out his development. He's 2 years into it right now. And we're hoping, we're very optimistic after speaking with him on Monday, that he is going to have the bar and grill open by the end of the year. He feels confident that he can get the bar and grill. He's lucky he had an operator to run the bar and grill, but that operator pulled out, and now he's looking for a second operator. He said he's close on finalizing a deal with an operator. Then he's going to move on to the second part of his development, which he's working both parallel. The other is to the blue building, the main building. It's going to have a white tablecloth enterprise restaurant there on the second floor. And he has put the infrastructure in there. He's got the electrical, he's working on the AC units now. One of the setbacks he had there was that each time he put material in there, it was stolen. They came in and took all his copper out of it, all of his the lines. So he was facing that. Now he has cameras up on the perimeter. We do too. Those are the challenges I think he's dealing with. I don't want to speak for Mr. Coxum, but what he's telling us is that, those are his challenges. And I do see some life coming to that property by the end of this year.
So we'll see phase one starting. And then
Phase one is going to be the bar and grill,
Bar and grill.
and phase two will be the restaurant on the second floor. Then he has some concept ideas of developing out the rest of that area. He's also talking about putting a small boutique hotel out there.
Correct.
And we're looking at where's the best
Now,
location.
he would need some zoning variances for that, right? Or do you guys control that on your side of it?
Yes, we may have to, if it's a conditional use, we may have to come back to the council for a variance on things of that sort, yes.
So let's talk about the flooding issue. That's been a decades-long discussion. I think one of the things they talked about decades ago was that if a hurricane ever shifted to the west and devastated Armstrong and MSY, then the Lakefront Airport would be it. And the recommendations were made then to invest in flood protection and to invest in drainage, because if that would ever happen, then the Lakefront Airport is your primary way in terms of aviation. Why hasn't that happened yet?
Why?
Because that can happen. We don't want it to happen.
Nobody, the entities that we have approached, the state, the feds, FEMA, to put money into protecting the asset at the Lakefront Airport, none of them are willing. The FAA is not going to put, that's not their role to put in.
And what about the state?
The state has not given us any money, or even hinted that they were going to give us money for flood protection. The feds, we approached FEMA, we went to Washington, and FEMA denied our claim for flood hazardous mitigation monies.
So even though there's SEALA funds, post-Katrina and other funds to deal with flooding, you guys have not been approved for any of those specialty
No, sir.
funds?
They have not given us any money for flood protection.
Even though the science says that if MSY Armstrong happened to be devastated and you guys were still there, y'all would be the natural outlet
Yes.
for air traffic in and out of this region.
And to expand on that, sir.
And you're the third, and you're the second busiest airport in the state. That's how nonsensical this conversation is to me, is that the state, and we can't get our federal partners to invest in an asset, that if the primary asset council members were wiped out, then we wouldn't have anything. So it's kind of, Laurel and Hardy seem to know better than that, but go ahead and expound.
the important part of this too is that right after Katrina, the airport was opened by mid-September of 2005, back open for general aviation. That airport served as a dropping-off point for rescue missions. They were rescuing people on the flooded side, bringing them to the airport, dropping them, holding them. The National Guard was out there on the airport. The Lakefront Airport, I don't know if the state officials really understand how important and significant Lakefront Airport is
Even though you're the second busiest airport in the state.
to this area, right?
Correct.
I was there in 2008 when the city called for mandatory evacuation and watched ambulance after ambulance leave hospitals, come to the airport, load the sickliest patients onto the C-130s and fly them off to safety. This is a very, very critical piece of an asset to the city of New Orleans. And we've been trying for flood protection now probably for 10 years, and no one wants to listen to us about that. We can't develop the airport because of not having flood protection. Our FBOs are, we've had, 3 floods on our FBOs in the last 10 years. So like every 15 years, every 5 years, they get flooded. So they have to redo their interiors and all. So, yeah.
And for people listening, I want to continue to walk down this road, especially about highlighting the importance, but not just for emergencies, but for special events. The Swifties, especially many of the elite who paid $1 million for the kids for tickets, the Lakefront Airport was a primary reason that she chose New Orleans for her extravaganza, her weekend, because of access in and out, correct?
Yes, sir. She came in. In fact, Bruce explained, but the FBOs were not expecting the air traffic to come in for her concert. They brought in an unusual amount of aircraft, but Taylor Swift came in and parked right inside of a hangar and deplaned from the hangar. But no, we get a lot of celebrities. We get federal officials. We've had cabinet members come in from the federal government that land at Lakefront Airport. And so yes, we're very, very,
Including presidents.
we've had past presidents come in, yes.
Yeah, I've met a couple
I
there.
remember Bill Clinton came to the airport.
Let's continue to walk down that road. Super Bowl. So a lot of the improvements that were done in the Lakefront corridor and endowment basically came from surveys and comments from people who access the Lakefront Airport.
Yes. That is correct. The cleaning up of Dalman Road, the resurfacing, all was based on the Super Bowl. I know that they did some restriping along Stars and Stripes. They came out and restriped the roadway. They put up signage out there. So, and I hate to say it this way, but the Super Bowl's coming, let's clean it up. After the Super Bowl leaves, we'll forget about it until we get the next one. And that's generally where the monies have been coming from.
And if I can,
Absolutely.
I think that fixture is a great benefit to the airport because we have had events that wanted to come there and maybe unveil an aircraft. And they've chose other airports just because of once their clients get off of the airport, it's not in the best shape, and maybe they didn't feel comfortable bringing that in. So small things like that go a long way for us and the business we're going to be able to continue to bring in there.
And Ms. Martin, that's why I wanted to highlight that opportunity, because you guys provide information from the executives and the celebrities and the elites who fly in about how that area looks and how they access
Yes, sir.
downtown, how they access the Four Seasons, how they access the quarter, how they access the Super Bowl, Final Four, or the Taylor Swift, or Essence. So that information was pivotal in using that to say, hey, hold on a second, guys. This is how the people who utilize this airport feel about accessing downtown or accessing the city. We may want to invest in and improve it. That doesn't happen if you don't get the information from the people who use your airport.
Yes, sir. And it is the first impression. If we're trying to lure businesses to the city of New Orleans, this is the first impression that maybe some of them are having when they're flying in. And if they're going to house their aviation assets in New Orleans to conduct business, it's not going to be over at MSY. It's going to be at Lakefront Airport.
So what do we do about the flooding situation? The science says that the direction of a hurricane matters, the backside winds matter, and if we don't improve the potential flooding or pumping situation at your airport, we could wind up with something that they've predicted and not be prepared or have any aviation or emergency access to our city. How do we take those conversations to the next level with the state? What do you need from city officials to do that? Because the science and the studies haven't gone away.
One thing I think we need to do is educate our legislators. I don't think we tried to have a meeting with our state legislative officials, and I think we had 2 members show up. But I think educating them on the importance of the airport and these assets to the citizens of New Orleans, I think would go a long way and open their eyes to this importance of this airport. Flooding. You know, there's a lot of talk about flooding. And right now, I mean, this airport is vulnerable. We get hit with a storm. It doesn't take a Category 5 to come through here to flood the storm. You can flood the airport. Bruce showed a picture of just a regular rainstorm could flood this airport. So I think I think that's the first step. Again, is for us to reach out to our legislators and see if we can educate them on the airport and the need for flood protection, and hopefully maybe even invite our federal legislators also, because that's where the money's going to come from. It's going to come from a combination of the feds and the state.
But the airport can be an economic and cultural engine and foundation for more growth and diversity in the city, correct? It has all the assets as well as the geographical location.
Correct.
Yes.
I agree, and I think we could be a linchpin for the East's resurgence as it comes back, right? Because we've got the airport there. If businesses were going to start coming out towards the east, it's much easier to get supplies into our airport than coming all the way from Kenner.
So let's talk about your relationship with Lincoln Beach, period. Explain that relationship and how it works, and as you say, the encouragement in developing and what that means to LMA.
The development of Lincoln Beach,
correct.
I think that goes hand in hand, because I think the Orleans Levee District developed and built Lincoln Beach back in its day. But I do think that it goes hand in hand with the Lakefront Airport, the South Shore Harbor Marina. Councilmembers, one thing that challenges that we've always faced is the stereotype, the stigma of the East. Mm-hmm. That's a huge hurdle that we have to overcome. And
even when it's unjust.
Exactly. You know, I feel where we're located, the airport in the South Shore Harbor, is very safe because you have the flood wall, you have the train tracks, you have fencing, you have everything to protect these properties. I think it's very safe. I feel safe out there. We don't, other than Mr. Coxum losing his copper equipment, that happens anywhere. But
that happens all over the city.
yeah, I think it's a stigma that we've been fighting for a long time, and I think we need to develop a plan of action of how are we going to overcome that stigma, because it's really not a bad location. It's a beautiful location. We have a lot of good assets there. That, you know, we've had consultants come in and talk to us about South Shore Harbor and Orleans Marina, and they tell us that South Shore Harbor is one of the best built marinas that ring Lake Pontchartrain.
Absolutely.
And so people don't want this side of the industrial canal. They want to be on the west side. And that's the stigma we've been fighting for a long time. And I think we need to come up with a plan of how we're going to revitalize this area and quash that stigma of the East.
But not only come up with a plan, the first thing you say is, how do we suppress the attitude? The negative attitude about bashing something that is really an asset.
Without any real proof.
Without any real proof. And to my colleague to the left, Councilmember Giarrusso, I have always appreciated 1,000% your conversations about District E. And he's the farthest one away from that district, but in every meeting, whether it's budget, whether it's talking about the future, you have consistently talked about that area as an asset. And, you know, sometimes you got to be kind of bold when you want to support a place that's not your place, and you've never played politics with it. You've always talked about it as the future of the city. And we're hearing here right now, and that's why I did this, about the second busiest airport. What would happen if we didn't have it? Secondly, why haven't we protected it? And then the economic potential and viability that we're losing out, not only just because of the stereotype, but because we have not wanted to expand our thinking and create another opportunity. So on behalf of all, thank you, Joe, I really appreciate you, man.
Yes.
Councilmember Green, anything else before we go?
But Councilman, you gave me the mic, so let me say one other thing. The New Orleans East is celebrating soon the 50th year of UPS being at Dowman Road in Morrison, a thoroughfare, Dowman Road, that attracts more businesses than people talk about. I was just at another new business opening, and it just so happens that Dowman Road is in my district. I do what I can to invite the media, and I want the media to know this, to come to events so that you can see and you can leave comfortable knowing that things are going on that are positive. Mm-hmm. If you come out to the Lakefront Airport and you see the statues and you see the Art Deco and you go to the restaurant and you take an opportunity to just sit there and look at the airports coming in and out, the airplanes coming in and out, you'll know what a tremendous asset we have right then. But in many cities, man, people would be going bonkers if they had all of the resources that we have in our city and in New Orleans East. And sometimes we are our own worst enemies relative to the opportunities that exist to recreate in our district. There's a walking path along on the levee on Hain Boulevard, which has some of the most beautiful sunsets that you can imagine. But we can't talk about the sunsets because people say I can't go past the Industrial Canal. We can't talk about the airports that are landing and the people who come in town for the events and stop at the restaurant and all of the nice receptions that go on because, I can't go east of the Industrial Canal. So I'm saying to people in general, recognize that you're missing out on a lot of opportunities. There are also a lot of businesses that are doing well out front, for example, as I mentioned, UPS and others. There are churches that are thriving and growing, for example, in areas that we pointed out. There are restaurants on Hain Boulevard that have been there forever. What's the restaurant? Deanie's, for example.
Deanie's.
And then the other one that's further out.
Castnet.
Deanie's.
Let me tell you something. This is my chance to vent. Let me tell you something.
Mr. Rounds' place, several locations.
They are so pleased with doing business in New Orleans and New Orleans East. How long has Castnet been doing business? They've been doing business for 50 plus years on Hain Boulevard, along with Deanie's. Deanie's knows that they could go somewhere else if they wish to do so, but there's a mentality that some have relative to development opportunities and enjoyment of resources that keeps them in our communities. And they're doing well. So I just want to emphasize that the airport, which is customs still exists, right?
Yes, sir.
I've had people say I land at Lakefront Airport because there's a customs facility that won't take me as long as if I go through the main airport, right?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
We just have to continue to do the things that we can. I'm so glad that there's going to be redevelopment of the former Bally site. We have to do our part to continue to emphasize the good side. But to those who are watching, the media and the business community, you have a role too. You live in this city. Promote what is real. Promote the opportunities. I want to see somebody do a story on the sculpture and the deco. Have I mentioned that three times already?
Yes.
I want somebody to talk about the number of airplanes that land successfully at the Lakefront Airport. I want them to talk about the number of boats in that marina and how those boats go out on Sundays into the lake, and they, later on when Lincoln Beach is developed, how it's going to be so natural that they go from the South Shore Marina along the lakefront to go to Lincoln Beach to enjoy themselves. That's why another reason I'm looking forward to Lincoln Beach. That's just my chance to vent. There's so much going on that's positive. I see it. I just want everybody else to enjoy it too.
But it gets no exposure. And I think you're right. The media needs it to help get the word out, the positive things out here.
If something bad happened at the Lakefront Airport, if there was something negative happening here today, our media would be here,
Yes.
front and center, or if there was some political theater. But it's an asset. And, you know, I tell folk all the time, I used to not be a conspiracy theorist because I thought O.J. did it. But when you talk about land and opportunity, Councilmember Green, people do conspire. I can go to a map and show you where over the last 50 years, more than half of the violence in the city happened in a particular area, and it wasn't in the east. It was centrally located, next to downtown, where more than half of the 300 or 400 murders for 17 years used to happen. But they never disparaged that community because of the land barons, because of its proximity to downtown, because of its proximity to the quarter. Now, I don't want to always say that demographic pay is an issue, because this is what I do know. That area will not always be obsolete. God isn't making any new land. Someone's going to take advantage of it. So how far do you have to tear it down or push people out or get them to disparage their own community before they get pushed out, before the next group of people discover it, like Columbus discovered America, where people told him, hello. But what you guys are doing, and Mr. Martin, I think as an aviation director, especially given the events and the challenges, you've been yeoman. Mr. Capo, I think finally, under your leadership and your team, I think the LMA is on the map now. And I think what you guys have done is said, we're going to asset build, and they can't ignore you. But what we need to know is how do we come together to protect that asset, to promote that asset, and for the state to realize that it's a primary asset in their arsenal, period. That bridge on Haynes, that's not a city bridge. How often you and I get blamed for the bridge being closed? That's a state bridge.
The State Bridge.
What does that do? And every year around the same time of year, you can count on that bridge being closed. So I think this is an opportunity, and I would love you guys to quarterly report to us, to give us updates. We need to, Councilmember, approach our federal authorities about drainage and flood protection, because I would hope for the worst case scenario to happen. And then all of a sudden we look up and y'all are the only airport that's really functional, but we can't access it because of water. That would truly not make sense. Mr. Capo, any closing comments from you?
The only thing I would say, Councilman Thomas, is that I think it's really got to be a collaborative effort between the state, city, and the feds to get us on the map and to get us some funding. We work with the city, but only in the sense that if there's a problem, then we contact the city.
Right.
We don't work with the city to move something forward or come up with a development plan. And I think the lack of communication, and that lack of communication is a death to a lot of things. And I think if we had more communication with our partners and everyone partnered together, I think we could make this happen and make it develop.
Well, thank you. Any online comments? No online comments?
Hey, Councilman Thomas,
Any public comment?
I want to end with one thing. Tell Henry
Councilmember Green, one more time.
Tell Henry Coaxum that I was just joking. I actually attended the Super Bowl, so I couldn't have come to his party. And on the record, with my own money, nobody paid for the ticket. I paid for it myself. But the bottom line is that I'm just laughing because if he didn't, I was at the game. So at the end of the day, I wouldn't have been able to be present, but I sure am glad to see Bally's being redeveloped.
Yes.
That's going to be another destination west of the Industrial Canal. Come on out and see it.
Yes.
If you had paid, if you hadn't paid for your ticket, the press would be here to cover that.
Right.
Guys, thank y'all so much. We appreciate it.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Capo, Mr. Martin, keep doing what y'all are doing.
And thank
to
you
the
all.
LMA team, guys, bless y'all. Thank y'all. Next item on the agenda.
You have consideration contract pursuant to Council Rule 57. This is the 8th Amendment to the Professional Services Agreement between the city and Stantec Consulting to extend the contract an additional 4 years.
Additional extension, there be no objection. Chair moves. Can I get a second? Second by Councilmember Giarrusso. All in favor? Ayes have it, so ordered. There be no other business? We would entertain a motion to adjourn.
No, I'm fine. I'm just talking to.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right. You don't want any closing comments?
Well, now, if you want me to close,
No.
I'll close with some very positive information now.
Well, thank you. Move to adjourn, seconded by Councilmember Green. All in favor? Hey, guys, thank y'all. Everybody have a great day, man.